Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Sam for another spoiler discussion. And this week we are talking episode 4 of The Acolyte, which is now streaming on Disney Plus. The episode released at 2 a.m. here in the UK. I guess last night if you're living in America, and tomorrow if you're in Australia, or one of those types of scenarios. But as always, we're going to give some spoiler-filled thoughts, maybe a bit of speculation, and talking about rampant theories and whatnot. But before we get into any of that sort of stuff, Sam, how are we doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm glad that the weather's on kind of an upward trajectory. It's very nice here. Someone was mowing the lawn at 8 p.m. Don't know why. So a little bit weird, but overall very good. And quite an enjoyable episode as well today.
Yeah, and I believe the shortest episode so far, 30 minutes, 29 minutes, or however long it is. And I'm not going to lie, when I went off earlier than normal on a Wednesday, I was like, oh, it's just 30 minutes this time. I've cocked this sleeping pattern up. I could have given myself another 15. But, it is what it is. Next week, there'll be episode 5, and we're heading into that second half of the series. But as always, we do want to hear it from people. I'm sorry I'm laughing because we know where this tends to go now. Comment below with your thoughts on The Acolyte.
Be honest.
Be honest. Listen, I'm laughing because we've seen obscene stuff. We've seen people that have genuine issues like, hey, like this isn't working for me. Hey, I'm loving this. I'm disliking this. It's broken. All that sorts of stuff. I do want to hear it. I'm not going to mock it unless it is genuinely that embarrassing.
George, you're a Disney shill because you like it. You're a shill. You're being paid for this.
If you agree with them, you're in. If you disagree, you're woke or a shill. Funny news though, The Boys season 4 is airing, and once again, people are realizing that the show was always mocking them from season 1, not season 4. But different conversation for probably 7 weeks' time. If you like this stream, if you like this video, there's other videos happening. Sam, you're covering Doctor Who for us at the moment. The finale is this Friday. Your spoiler discussion was last night. So if people want to find us on social media, go on linktree.com/cinemasavvy. You can get links to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd on there, and Redbubble as well. But seeing as we missed you last week, I just want to really quickly grab your thoughts on, do we say the controversial episode 3?
I mean, unnecessarily controversial, perhaps. I mean, I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. I mean, I think some people like this is amazing. Obviously, a lot of other people have said it's terrible, whichever, fine, whatever. But for me, it was unexpected to have a full episode flashback at that point. I guess it'll make more sense as the episodes go on. It makes sense with some of the things that happen in this episode for it to have happened in the episode before. It was good to find out a little bit more. I feel like there's still a lot of questions to be asked, a lot of stuff's in the air. With this, definitely feels like from a certain point of view, flashback. So I'm sure we'll get other things. But for what it was, I thought it was a good episode. Could have been better for me, but not a train wreck in any sense. And I thought the child actors did a great job as well. And I cannot remember the actress's name, which is really terrible. But the mother was excellent.
Jodie. Oh God, I've forgotten as well.
I know it's really annoying me, but yeah, she was excellent. I loved her. I could just listen to her speak for the full runtime, to be honest.
That's very fair. And it is interesting and kind of what we spoke about last week. Like, it's really weird when Phil was on. It's like we have a whole episode that's flashback, it doesn't change, and then you start to realize towards the end that there's a good chance that this is actually a point of view. We're probably going to get another one. I think we all think we're going to get another flashback. I think all our bets for episode 6 maybe. But coming back a week later, I say coming back to the correct narrative, with it being a week, and this is kind of something that I'm losing the plot with, and this is like basic like me literacy now. We're 4 episodes into an 8-episode miniseries. It's not a villain of the week. It's not a chapter 1, chapter 2 like The Mandalorian, where there's almost no continuity. Pretty much, you get a villain of the week. This is an 8-episode series designed to be an 8-episode series. Brackets, we hope, come the end of it. But it is easily one of them where, and I don't want to moan about Netflix because I can't stand Netflix, but I feel that the next generation of people that seem to watch or try and understand TV or whatever, they've been so used to this Netflix binge module. Not only do they not have patience to see where a series goes, but they just demand to know everything within like 30 seconds of an episode happening. I'm like, what would you gain from an 8-episode miniseries where all the questions were answered in episode 1? And I just feel like every week the same corners are like, oh, what's happening? What's this? This is an outrage. They've changed. It's like, no, nothing's been changed. Now you get to episode 8, then it's not happened. Great, I'm with you. But I just cannot fathom. And it's weird doing these weekly spoiler discussions, if I'm really honest, because we've got 29-minute episodes today. We're probably going to end up going longer than the episode did. But at the same time, it's a very important episode, but it's setting it for next week. And then there will be a week of theorizing. There'll be a week of people thinking, who could this be? Who is that? What's going to happen? And that does a lot more good for the series than something where it's like, hey, this week happened. Let's talk about next week. What are your sort of thoughts on how the series, I guess, is evolving or how the narrative's been forced within?
It's a really interesting thing at the moment because I feel like a lot of people are now not used to how kind of weekly television works, where things are a little bit more serialized. I think, we spoke about it on Doctor Who, that, I think some people were kind of upset or angry that this past episode, which is obviously helping set up for the final episode, because obviously it's the first part of a 2-part finale, that a lot of it is just set up and it feels like, oh, it's just building up to something that we don't see. And I'm like, well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of, having a cliffhanger and kind of building that up so that you get the payoff in the next episode. Obviously, if you've got a full series that drops, you don't get that. You can just go straight into it. So the television itself is built a bit differently to warrant that, rather than having a cliffhanger to such an extent. So I love this episode's cliffhanger. I love when it's like, oh, I really want to see more. That's what it should do. The actual structure of the series so far, like I said, I think the flashback episode threw me. I kind of expected to have it more be interspersed throughout the present day, and just cut back to that rather than having a full episode. Especially as we only see what I presume is that certain points of view. It would have been kind of interesting if you had kind of an episode where it was focused more on one of the characters and it had their version of events, and then later down the line another character, their version of events. So yeah, I think overall it's fine, but really it's a very short space of time as well that we're in. It's a very small thing that's happening right now. And I think people are blowing it way up that it changes everything when this is such a small pocket of time, collection of people, and we don't know the conclusion of this yet. So I feel like I can't make any strong presumptions or have strong feelings about it until it's done and I can go, do you know what? I agree with that. Or no, I don't agree with that. Or do you know what? I don't agree, but it doesn't matter because I had fun. So there's different ways you can react to it, and I'm just choosing not to take it super heavily and try and enjoy the show for what it is, which is a kind of fresh new take on the Star Wars universe, which so many people have been desperate for, by the way. So this is not the same old Star Wars, and that's, good.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you on that. And yeah, a lot of these you mentioned about it being serialized as well, and that's just not something we've really had. I mean, even Andor, right, which everyone sort of loves, that's still what 4 3-episode arcs, and it's going to be that next year for season 2 again. And obviously, The Mandalorian is its own thing. Ahsoka, I can't remember, 6 or 8 episodes now, and that was a mini series, but that's setting up this grand story to merge films, to merge shows. You've had Book of Boba Fett, which is that sort of like spin-off vibing from Tatooine, and you are right. The placement of last week is peculiar, and I'm not saying we could have done it better, but could you imagine if you'd have had today's episode drop and then next week you don't get the duel or what follows, you get a flashback? That would have been insane. And narratively, it might have been somewhat stronger to have done that, having the 3 wanting to get back to the present day so much more compared to we're still in the early stages of this adventure. And kind of where we're going with today, I mean, we're picking up for episode 2 again. We've obviously not been there for a couple of weeks now. And we're going straight back to Coruscant. We're going to see the Jedi on their mission. Now, we have to talk about this because I'm once again perplexed by. I'm not perplexed at this point in time. That's the wrong word. Just the usual fucking nonsense is where I'm going to go with this. So I watched the episode, 5:30 a.m. UK time, so it's done by 6. Went on Twitter, as you do. 3/4 of the people I follow loving it. People that tweet about love it. There's a thing called algorithms. People live in echo chambers. So obviously a lot more of what I see is more positive, and a lot more of what other people see, like Star Wars Theory, who tweeted the other week, I've never seen Star Wars so united. Who's been crying that he got. It's
That
either
was
copyrighted.
hilarious.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's an algorithm. Like, it's the purpose of them. You are to stay on there because you're showing the same opinions as the people they're presenting to you. Again, that's not even like basic, because that's just how social media works. You know, everyone sees the Instagram thing. Like, guys' comments Instagrams are very different to girls' comments Instagrams in terms of reels. Same reels, two completely different sets of answers that people get shown. And it's just one of them where Ki-Adi-Mundi popped up. I'm going to talk about this. We've got to talk about the story. I guess it comes with it, but listen, I've seen that egghead. I was like, is it him? Like, I didn't know how old he's meant to be. I've never. I know they've got a real race name. Sorry if it's racist to call him eggheads, but growing up, me and my sisters called him egghead. Never seen another one in Star Wars. I don't think I've never seen it in the new canon. I've never seen it in Clone Wars. Just him. I was like, oh, okay, he's old. Great. That was it. That was my thoughts. All right, no, he's. I think he's a bit of a prick, if I'm honest, in the prequel trilogy. There's a great video on him if you really dive into how he is in Clone Wars and how he is in the prequels. He's actually the most contradicting Jedi ever, which kind of makes this stuff today really funny. But I'm seeing people outraged that he was born 70 years before he's meant to be. I'm like, no, like that shit's not been canon for 10 plus years. Disney bought Star Wars and look at all this absolute shite in the EU. We're not using any of it. George Lucas, who literally is like, I never read them. I just checked that the names haven't been taken. And people worship this. And listen, people grew up with canon. It was their legend. Sorry, it was their thing. Phil on the channel was a big Legend fan. They took great stuff from Legends and made it better. Look at Thrawn. And they are clearly borrowing from it. But just the outrage over an old non-canon birth date for a character who's in it for 1 minute. No one's talking about the episode. No one's talking about the actual story, what's happening, the trap. Is there a trap? What's happening to kind of it is. Wow, Ki-Adi-Mundi's here. It contradicts everything he said in The Phantom Menace. I'm like, again, with 4 episodes in, it could contradict it, and then I'm with you all. But today, it doesn't. In 4 weeks' time, it could. But he's not on the mission. He's not with them. He's literally just in a room where they're discussing that 2 Jedi were killed. That's it. Like, nothing more to it yet. So I'm just once again sat there, and like, I know people are grifting. I know the whole purpose of it is that that's how they make their money. Right? I saw a really funny quote today. I can't say it, but it's some old historic quote about basically how people have to pretend to be clueless to make a living, and once they realize that they can't make a living being clued up, they pretend to be clued, or something along those lines. It's actually a really good quote. And you just think of the usual suspects. You can check on a video and there'll be someone screaming, crying, Disney's fault, Disney's fault. 10 years ago, George Lucas' fault, George Lucas' fault. And history doesn't change. They follow the herd, don't they? They follow where the money is at. What's going to monetize my video? Is it laser thumbnail eyes of this person? Yes. Is it me screaming and crying? Yes. And in football terms, it's like AFTV, and I've detested that from day one. And I've always said this to people. If anyone knows what AFTV is, if you've heard of football fan channels, the only famous clips you've seen are when teams are losing, and it's embarrassing, and they're always embarrassing clips, and that's how they grift, that's how they make their money. Just stop being absolute morons online, and it's happening again. So the key is to find the right channels. And I know I'm way off point now, but I'm just with 4 episodes in, and like I said, I've got issues with the series, and I might end up hating this in 4 weeks' time. But the series isn't done yet, so I'm not going to sit there pretending I know what's going to happen for the next 4 weeks. They broke the laws. Like, they didn't. Like, it's not canon. Stop crying. Again, all this over fucking Ki-Adi-Mundi. I swear down.
Of all Jedi.
No one ever cared about the man yesterday, did they? Like, he was a meme. I mean, he's known for being a meme more than anything else.
If he is your favorite character, then by all means go with that, because I mean, I have some favorite characters in other media, and it's like, why out of all the characters in that would you choose them? And sometimes you have that, and that's fine. But what is happening with him in this is nothing. It's so little. But clearly there's a reason why Ki-Adi-Mundi, his age, has been retconned, and why he specifically is in this. So I mean, I guess from my perspective, it's see how it goes. I feel like so many people are jumping the gun on nothing, and that let's see what happens. And then afterwards, if when all's said and done, this didn't work, that's when I go, do you know what? I'd criticize it, say, do you know what? I don't really think that works for what has been presented to us, and I think it kind of messes with the overall story by having this inclusion or having it play out like that. The only other members of Caddy species that I remember seeing was from the original Clone Wars when he had, I think it was his apprentice who gets yeeted by Grievous. So I first was like, could it just be another one of his species? But it was him. So I think there was also, I don't know if it was him either or another one of his species, but Plo Koon as well. There was I
at the
saw
end
in the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
whether it's going to be geared up to be Sash next week, but I did see that. I was like, no one's talking about Plo Koon if it is him or if it's his species.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, if he's in it too, great. I'm like, great. We've not just got Yoda, who hopefully will be appearing later in the series, but also we've got these other two Jedi Masters who we somewhat know. So that should be something to be celebrated. But no, it's just been kind of criticized. But I wasn't expecting it, and I was quite happy to have him in it. And if it makes his kind of remarks in the prequels and whatever else make more sense, then yeah, because the Jedi are not the most good guys ever. We knew that anyway. There might be individuals within that who are, I love Saul, I love Qui-Gon Jinn, I love Obi-Wan. There's, but each of them probably did make mistakes, and some Jedi probably more so than others. So, I just think this whole thing about putting Jedi so up on a pedestal and acting like the Sith are the only enemy the Jedi have, I think is really close-minded.
Yeah, I mean, I've not read the High Republic, if I say every week. The whole villains of the High Republic eras, I'm pretty sure like a gang, like the Nile or something like that. Like, it's not anything I've heard of. It's not something that's been in the show either. But I just find it really interesting that, again, people pick and choose what they want to talk and what they want to moan about. And for this episode, the Kelly Mini moment is such a small, minute detail because it's just the Jedi are sending them back out on a task force to continue with the mission. It's as simple as that. It's an A to B. The episode is 29 minutes long or however long it was. And we are gearing up for the second half of the show. When you're getting to a 9-minute episode, you understand it is going to be, I think, still the shortest episode of Mandalorian's episode 2, which was, post pilot and then just before he got his chrome armor. It was a great little episode, but it was it's a midway point. And this is where today feels like, they're looking for Kalnecker in the jungle. We even get him out of the opening of the episode enjoying his peaceful retirement / hiding.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, let's talk before we even, I guess, get to what happened to Kalnecker. Let's talk about May on her journey in the forest with. Do you think Manny Jacinto is playing the apprentice as well as?
Yes, I did think maybe at the end after we did the episode 1 and 2 premiere, I did think, oh, maybe it could be him. And then last week, obviously, was the flashback, but it was still in my head. Maybe it's him. And like all throughout this episode, I was like, it's him. Like, we're not going to see them two in the same shot. And now I've sold it to myself that he is, and I'm just going to be so disappointed if it isn't. But I think it'd be so interesting if it was.
Yeah, and I like the idea that hiding in plain sight. I'm sorry, look at Palpatine. The man hid in plain sight, like leading the entire fucking galaxy. And it's something where I quite like that we've had him, on this aid. He is telling May what to do. He's helping her, but not helping her enough that she's still got to do her challenges. And the theory I've kind of stuck with is the Acolyte is almost the apprentice of the apprentice. And it might have been Phil that made a great comparison. It's like Asajj Ventress in Clone Wars, when it's he hasn't trained her to take out Sidious, but Sidious is sat there thinking, hey, man, she's getting too powerful, and he probably could overthrow him if he wanted to with her. So I'm very curious about where this story is going, and I feel there's a lot more to it because my biggest issue with today, and again, this will be in 4 weeks' time type thing, could be 1 week's time. May's sudden, my sister's alive. It's changed everything. I'm going to hand myself in. And if that is the legitimate face turn, I will be good. And me and you before it live, I was like, it's like Battlefront 2, where they marketed the entire game as, for the first time, you'll fight as the Empire, you'll see the aftermath of Endor, blah, 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 all this amazing stuff. And like 4 levels in, Versi, I was like, oh no, these guys are bad. I'm going to the Rebels. And hey, I like the story still, but it was not the same when that happened. And I think they could have done that a lot better. I know it's a really minor thing to moan about because it's still a great story campaign. And I understand for the logic of wanting to do it, they wanted to switch it. But I really hope if May is turning, it wasn't based off the one scene today, the realization, and judging off where certain characters end up come the end of it. I wonder if there's a lot more. I mean, she's in the building at the cliffhanger, isn't she? And it's Osha that's out with someone called him Captain Teeth, or no, Darth Teeth, which I thought was quite a funny name actually. But what was your thoughts on that stuff? Because it's a weird one, isn't it? And again, it's that could this happen, could it not happen thing.
Yeah. So the only thing I saw on Twitter before I saw the episode was, a complete 180 character thing, and I was just like, okay. And in my head I was like, oh, is that about May? And I watched the episode play out, and then I was a little bit disappointed just because I kind of wanted to see more of that, not struggle, but I just wanted to kind of go for her to go through the motions a little bit more, being like, because if this changes completely your direction, she's already killed 2 Jedi Masters. We don't know what else has happened, in between, the flashback events and present day. All of what she knows now potentially switches, and that's a lot to kind of deal with. And I kind of wish there was more of that, like, oh, I'm unsure, rather than kind of, what feels like 20 minutes between episode 2 and now to go, well, actually, no, I've seen her, and that's that. And in a way, I'm sure some people would go through that and be like, oh yeah, I can, I'm going to be good again. But I'm like, based on actions that she's done, unless we get her point of view in a flashback and we see other things, and it just means that maybe we don't agree with her actions, but maybe the Jedi who died did maybe somewhat deserve it. I don't know. But I kind of wish we'd seen it play out a bit more, and I think this is when either a bit more of a runtime or an additional episode would have just allowed it to feel like more of a natural progression for her character and character arc, rather than what we've got. And especially, I thought that we were going to lose Osha at the end of this, and I thought that would have just been a really interesting thing, and that could have been the character turn. Like, what have I done? I've now lost someone that I should have, been with and been around. And the person who's killed her is this person that I've been working for. So, I mean, I'm interested to see what happens because of it, but I would like to see a bit more, a little bit more from her perspective rather than what we've got, because a lot of it has just felt like banter with Khmer and just stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, and especially like when the lightsaber gets ignited at the end, I actually thought for a really brief moment, like, oh my god, he's just killed her. But obviously that didn't happen. But I love that build up and what they're doing with it. And you're right, like, may need a bit more development. I do think we'll get a second flashback episodes. I think we kind of need it, because obviously we don't know the logic of the. I don't know what we call. I don't know if there's an official name, but the villain, the Sith, whatever it's going to be, the apprentice, the master. I know they've referred to him a few times, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. But it does feel like at this point in time, it's like, oh, like that's been a bit quick. And speaking of quick, the death of Kel Necker, sliced and diced off screen.
Disappointing.
I'm not gonna lie. Like when I first saw like they go into the room I was like, oh my, like. I thought this was going to be sort of that he's been dead for like a year, and what we saw already was, Then I was like, oh no, wait, you've seen the end of episode 2, shouting at people. But at that point, you think, okay, the Master's near. We're going to see what's happened. I love the idea that the Jedi were there too. Like, the Jedi knew May was there, but they would never believe her that she'd gone there to hand herself in to get to the Jedi. Like, I love that idea that you had this really brief standoff. I know that Yord has become a fan favorite online. The hashtag Yord Horde, which is insane. In a
I
funny,
may be part of it. I may be a
yeah,
part of
I've
it.
seen a lot of memes, a lot of them very funny, and I kind of like that we still don't know where he's going to go with it. That he just wants to get the twin. He thinks Osh's off the hook, but he's still not a devoted Jedi, but he's by the book as far as the book can go. And I think that's going to come in very handy in the next couple of episodes. At the same time, we've got Sol, who is still my favorite character in the show, the heart and soul of it, who I saw a tweet from a good friend Alden today basically saying that he's reached the Ned Stark level of he knows too much and is too likable to make it out. And I'm kind of sat there thinking, yeah, like I didn't think he'd make it out the show, if I'm being honest, from the get-go, but now
Similar
yeah,
hair.
he has actually.
I
He's
mean,
got that.
basically, don't wear that hair. Otherwise, I mean,
And his favorite Jedi is Qui-Gon Jinn, which also doesn't help. But
there's a lot of red shirts in this as well. I mean, we've got a big group of Jedi, and I've got to say that was quite the exciting visual to just see a bunch of them traveling. I was like, it's so rare in live action to get something like that where they're not just fighting and they're not just in the temple. So it was a nice just visual change to have, and obviously to see them all there as kind of a task force. Although, yeah, I'm pretty sure that the majority are not going to make it out of this one.
That's what I'm excited for in a non-psychopathic way. Leslie Hadland did an interview saying there's an episode of the show that's going to be like Predator/Alien, and I thought it'd be Cal Necker in the forest hunting people. Where actually, in my head, I'm thinking, is that next week? Are we going to get like a Sith hunting the Jedi in the forest? Because I call them a Sith, we don't know still, but I would love, as you said, the visual of the Jedi was cool. I know we got it in Attack of the Clones. That was a big thing at the time. But the only time you really see them together is when they're being surrounded and being closed in on, when they all ignite and go for it. We've never seen that like unified team. And I just think it was quite interesting seeing them exploring on a mission. As it would have been in the High Republic era, there's no Clone Wars, there's no blatant Sith. It's not the way it's been. Time has moved on. You can't do this sort of thing in the films 20 years ago. So I think the logic of the High Republic is it's the Jedi at their peak. So I quite like to see them doing that. And I'm excited where it goes. I'm the same as you. Like, not one. Maybe if it is Plo Koon, maybe it's just Plo Koon species, but there you could say cheerio to pretty much all of them. And I can't wait. Like, I'd like it to be not in a psychopathic way, but if they can do it visually, where bring it in over an episode, like seeing what's happened. I know people saying that they can't know the Sith exist, all this sort of stuff. This is where future episodes, to me, rely on that. Does nobody get out? Does everybody get out? Do they find out it's not a Sith, or is it something different? There are so many questions we have. And in my eyes, I think we're going to get some answers to that next week, but we're not really going to have the story complete until the finale, or at least episode 7, ready for some big smash out on episode 8. But I am intrigued to see how next week opens, because I just loved that visual image of him throwing Osha with the Force, like almost like the click of his fingers, and Sol just going straight in for the attack soon after. And I cannot wait. I really like for next week. I don't know how long the episode is. I know the first 4 episodes were put on for press, so I don't think anyone has seen this that could leak stuff at the moment too. But it is one of them where I'm very excited.
Yeah, and this guy's powerful. I mean, I can't remember how many Jedi there were. Was it 7 or 8? And Force pushed all of them back, seemingly quite easily. My thought is, if it is Khmer, then he got tied up, got himself down, rushed to Kalnaka, killed him straight away, and was like, "This is it." Like, she's failed the test. And also with May now witnessing this, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens now with the twins, and which is obviously kind of the more central storyline to this particular series. So yeah, I think it's all up in the air. It definitely feels like a good kind of place to stop. So I know when they say sometimes it reaches a natural point, but it would kind of be silly to continue for another 5 minutes or 10 minutes and then stop, based on we'll say that more after next week's episode, I guess, when we see what happens. But I'm sure this Predator vibe will kind of stick with everyone who watches it, or I hope that they do anyway, because that could make for such an interesting piece of television.
Yeah, and especially like the visual that they're already in a forest as well, be hunted by a literal predator villain in a sense, and I think it could be too good an opportunity for them to pass up. I don't know who's directing the next few episodes. I know they do switch directors around a lot, but it's just one of them where it's almost that perfect bridge gap episode that we're picking up from a couple of weeks ago. We had the flashback, we had the intro. Now we're going to slowly bring you toward the main event time, and I think that's where we're going. And there might be other things where it doesn't work out. I'm just going to quickly bring up a comment. Travis says, "How's it going, guys?" It's going well. The series probably better than you've read, maybe. Moods different. Depends who you've been talking to, but yeah, I'm going to be honest, Sam. I've got not much left to add on this. Like, it was a 29-minute episode. We don't have to overtalk.
It did fly. I mean, I did watch it in two parts because I was just not great on my time today. But I think for what we got, it was good. As I said in the beginning, I just feel like it is the build up. At the moment, in terms of Star Wars series, do I think the Acolyte's is as good as Andor? No. Do I think it's as good as the Mandalorian? No. As good as Ahsoka? Probably not either. It's like I feel like it's not the best thing I've seen, but the story is still kind of keeping me intrigued. And what we're getting, we've got some good characters that I enjoyed watching. And my only kind of real criticism at this point is that I just want to see more of it. And I just feel like if I say that after the 8 episodes, that's where a lot of my disappointment might come from, because we are, as audiences, now getting a lot more used to less episodes that may or may not have longer or shorter run times than we used to. And especially when I go back to TV shows that have multiple episodes with multiple seasons, it makes things like this a little bit more difficult to really enjoy, because I know there's only a limited amount of it compared to other things. So that's where my criticism, but that's more of a general thing rather than specific to the Acolyte. It's definitely with just how the way television is at the moment.
No, I get that, and I kind of I quite like that thinking as well, especially as you said, there's other shows and there's still more episodes, and my kind of logic is after 8 episodes, I'd like it to stand out as its own identity within Star Wars. That it's not a copy and paste of that, a copy and paste of the other. It does feel like it's got potential, but it's got to really hit home. And I'm in that same sort of ballpark with that. It depends on what they do, because I don't want it to be a waste opportunity compared to what I think this has had the potential to be and could be still. She's got a really quick comment though. Travis, this is his theory. May's mission is to kill without a weapon. He spectates Kanaka's guilt is what kills him, and he killed himself before they got there. The test was if May would follow through, find the corpse, and see it was suicide, passing his test, but she gives up. So the master slashes the wound to make it look like a murder, so she fails.
I mean, that would be interesting.
I mean, it's interesting, especially when you look at the state of that room as well. Like it looked like been dead for a while. It's a good theory, and this is it. And I like the sort of stuff that you get a week to think about it. By the time you type your comment, you're not on to the next episode, getting your answer. That it does help shows to have the week gap. I mentioned The Boys earlier, one of my favorite shows. It's that ridiculous. Season 1 was a bingeable series, and season 2 and 3 we'll give you 3 episodes on day 1 and then weekly. And you're sort of there like you're half committed and you're half not committed. And yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. I'm curious to see other speculation. I want to know how the other Jedi are going to come into it. We once again have the Jedi Council mentioned but not shown, and I do feel like we will get them at some point in the show, and it'll be like right at the end of the series, like this not big cheesy reveal, but I could see it like after all is said and done, there is a council report, and it's this grandiose moment, and there are certain character arcs that will be fulfilled or ended through that, and that's what I'm really curious by, is to see what else we might get. But I do like that theory, and for anyone else watching at home, we want to hear from you, so please do comment your thoughts. We will reply to them in the comments, even when we're not live, when the video is up and stuck on the channel. If you want to find out about other videos, you can go get us on our social medias, linktree.com/cinemasavvy. I don't think there's any new releases this weekend. Bike Riders review we did at London Film Festival. Inside Out 2 Tate is on the channel. Doctor 2 will be up next Tuesday. So it is getting busy. It's heading to that time of year. And a quick one, we haven't spoke about it yet. Basil's his favourite character. He looks like a Caddyshack gopher, and every time he showed up, he wanted to hear Kane Loggins' theme. Yeah, we didn't talk about Basil. Weird, entertaining, kind of worked for Star Wars.
I mean, didn't have too much screen time, but I enjoyed him when he was there. I enjoyed his screaming at the at the end. Yeah, I will be disappointed if he is killed.
Well, might be
Really,
opening shot. It's like this badge is split in two.
don't. I had to add one final thing. I mean, I did get Jedi Fallen Order Survivor vibes from the Walk for the Forest when we did have that moth thing. I was like, I did get to like holding my hands up to my face just because I was like, oh no, please no, please no, please no, because that's my least favorite part of playing those games is all the random monsters and bugs that come out. So it was interesting for a little bit of world building to have that in there.
Yeah, I like the ideology with it. It's like, this thing's died not because it attacked us, but because we were here in our presence due to his death. I was like, oof, it's a bit deep. Kind of makes sense though.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way to end today. As I said, we'll be back next Wednesday. Hopefully it'll be not a lot longer, but we'll see how long the episode is and how great the episode is and see what we want to discuss with it. But between then, thank you all at home for watching. Oh, we've got another quick comment. I think given exchanges, the Jackie dies in the next one.
I really hope not, but
I think we're going to lose some people we've met. I think if I'm ending this time with a speculation point, I think not just the red shirts will die. I think we'll only have. Oh, I could see Jackie. Oh, I could see her dying. The Jackie comment's a good one. I see Yord surviving because he needs to learn a lesson. I see Soul surviving temporarily until later in the series, and Osha. I could honestly see them being the only three left. But the Jackie comment's a good one because she's young, the most innocent, the Padawan, and I think that will really bring in the Soul stuff. But that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only person that I'm like for sure would survive, and I could eat my words next week, but would be Yord, purely for the fact that he's most like the Jedi, in terms of by the book, by kind of looking at something without being too open-minded and thinking that is the way. So very, very much akin to perhaps like Indara and the other Jedi. In the flashbacks, and that again, it's like a lesson that's not been learned, and that the cycle resumes, and that eventually leads to the events of the prequels. So really, it's only him, and then potentially, there could be a tragedy thing where it's May who survives and Osha dies. I think that would potentially be the more interesting thing to happen. But everyone else, I probably feel is fair game at this stage.
Yeah, one last comment before we do round out. Jay said, we're not defined by what we lose, but what we survive, and how it's a privilege to witness something join the Force. Lance someone say before they die. Oof. Yeah, there are pieces coming together. That theory's in. I'm sticking with that, and I'll credit that.
Yeah.
Travis, if that happens, we'll bring up again next week. But this is going to round out. Sam, thank you so much for joining me again. Travis, for your comments, and everybody watching at home, take care, and we'll see you on the next one.